Hello, what's going on? Thank you for your patience. I got stuff together. Let me go and make sure the tech's good. 1, 2, 3. And then we should be going in a second. There we go. Going live. Hello. Hello, my name is Damon Brown of damonbrown.net. My main thing is helping you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. I am author of the new book, new as of a few days ago, Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, Nourish the World. I am so excited about the book. Our props are all over the place today. Build From Now, How to Know Your Power, See Your Abundance, Nourish the World. Thank you for making it a hot book. My main thing is helping you understand your best resources and maximize the time that you got going on. I think it's so important to, as we've learned, particularly over the past year, to maximize whatever resources we've got. In the new book, I talk about focus, agility, time, and energy. That's focus, agility, time, and energy. And based on those resources, you're able to make a bigger impact. You can learn, again, more about me at damebrown.net. And you can actually take a free quiz. Sorry. There we go. Oh, I'm falling back. Free quiz at buildfromnowquiz.com. Buildfromnowquiz.com. I am on a stool, and obviously I've had too much tea this morning. Buildfromnowquiz.com. You can actually take it for free. It's multiple choice. It's a really great quiz. Hundreds of you have taken it. The numbers are going up. And so many people are learning about their best resource between focus, agility, time, and energy. So thanks y'all for coming through. Today, we're going to talk about how to travel the world without leaving home. This is important to me because if you've been following this series, I've been coming to y'all every Wednesday, 11:30 or so Pacific Standard Time over here on the West Coast. And doing my daily YouTube show. It's available at youtube.com/BrownDamon. I'll throw that into the notes. You can subscribe there if you're watching on here. Hello, be sure to like and put comments in there. You know that my main thing is helping, again, entrepreneurs, creators, people get their business together, getting things off the ground. People who are underserved, overlooked. People who are trying to make an impact in the world and make the world better. We can't leave. A lot of us are sheltering in place. I'm approaching a year here in Las Vegas sheltering in place with my partner, my wife, and our 2 little kids, who you can probably hear in the background. I just released the book, had a whole bunch of launch parties. You can check them out at youtube.com/BrownDamon. Check out all the festivities. I did something with Costco and other folks, but it's not the same as being on the road. I'm originally from South Jersey. I grew up all across the United States, 3 or 4 different states. And then with my family and I, and also before I met my wife and started our family, I think I lived in like 17 different states. 17? Maybe 10. It was a lot. Let's just say a dozen different states, and I've traveled all over the world. As you can see in the thumbnail, where that's me and actually my partner riding camels over in Morocco for a honeymoon. So that's what I'm used to doing. That's what a lot of us are used to doing, and we're at home. And a lot of it's for our safety. Doesn't matter your political persuasion. You have to kind of figure things out based on the safety of the rest of the world. But then some of it too is just really difficult. And particularly if you're sheltering in place with people who are dependent on you, which is definitely my case and the case with my partner. So I thought I'd do it a little bit lighter this time and talk about ways that we can travel without leaving home. I think I'm also a little bit nostalgic because right there are my mugs from when I lived in New Orleans. And yeah, Mardi Gras was literally happening right outside of the house I was renting at the time. And yeah, beautiful memories. And we actually left with Hurricane Katrina. So as you know, or as you might know, Mardi Gras was yesterday. I celebrated with morning shrimp and grits. And my wife brought home a little bit of a king cake, which I appreciate. I tore it up yesterday. And then today's Ash Wednesday. And so it's a very festive time. I'm missing New Orleans, living in Las Vegas now. I miss my friends down there. I even have some family down there that I haven't seen in a very long time. And so with that in mind, I wanted to break out some ways that we can actually travel without leaving home. How can we actually have our heart go beyond where we're at now while being safe? And hopefully this conversation won't need to be had at Mardi Gras next year. Fingers crossed. All right, before I get into that, if you want to get into Build From Now, you can take the quiz, of course. and then you can grab it over at the audiobook. A lot of y'all are liking the audiobook, which I appreciate. I put my heart into it. It was a lot of fun to do. You can get it at bit.ly/buildfromnow. You can get it at Amazon Kindle if you're watching on Amazon Live. Welcome. Be sure to follow on there as well, and you'll see it highlighted, so you can check it out there. I have some cool stuff that's happening. I cannot say anything more than that, but you want to stay tuned to what I'm doing over there with Amazon. Apple Books, if you're into that, the audiobook or the digital book, you can go to bit.ly/Damon Apple Books. If you're into the indie bookstores, as I say, always shout out to my indie bookstores. I miss y'all. I would be doing a book tour right now with y'all if we weren't sheltering in place. You go to bookshop.org/shop/BrownDamon. Get all my books over at the indie bookstores. Lastly, if you want to get stuff from me, get a signed copy of Built From Now, or get a box set with the predecessor, Bring Your Worth, or the one you made a bestseller, The Ultimate Bites of an Entrepreneur. Get any of those 3 and more. You get them signed, shipped from me. They're going away from me. You can go to damonbrown.net. You can also get the Built From Now t-shirt and the Bring Your Worth mug, which is the name of my imprint. And as you probably know, it's the name of my previous book and the series that Built From Now is from. All right. So I've traveled a lot. I miss traveling. Let's talk travel. So if you're going to get into traveling, one thing I recommend is checking out the book COD. This book was by Mark Kurlansky. Shout out to Mark. This book was seminal for me for a couple of different reasons. It was a bestseller. So if you were into books, say 15 years ago, you couldn't escape this book. People don't talk about it anymore. This is what's called a microhistory. So a microhistory, and they call that in the publishing world over in New York, a microhistory is taking one idea and exploring the history of the world based on it. My good friend Wayne Curtis, shout out to Wayne, did a book called And a Bottle of Rum, which is the history of the world based on rum. You can tell why he and I are friends. Also down in New Orleans, so funny coincidence there. Cod, he's talking about the history of the world based on this little fish. It is brilliantly done. It is short. You can tell by the dog ears. I've read it several times. I think this copy, I want to say 20 years ago, shortly out of grad school. I had a book called Porn and Pong, Tomb Raider, Grand Theft Auto, and other sexy games changed the culture. Man, you can tell that book was a while ago. I just had the 12th anniversary of that book coming out. This was inspirational in that I was talking about video games and obviously technology and sexuality, and that became a microhistory or a microscope, if you want to call it that, of all the developments that have happened over time in the tech world, such as the advent of the VCR, which actually was started by the porn industry. Did we know that? Well, now you do. If you check out Porn and Pong, you can read about that. So little details like that. This book actually works as far as with travel, because we're actually talking about the history, particularly of North America. And it gets into the fishing industry. It gets into climate change. And we're talking about 20 years ago. There's so many different insights that we have. Oh, no, I'm actually in the middle of my show, sweetheart.
Look.
Yep, that's beautiful.
As if not just...
Speaking of traveling, getting out of the house. All right. Actually, I'm doing an interview right now.
That's not like me saying.
Baby. Yeah, I will take a look at it afterwards, okay? Can you close the door, Abby? Thank you, sweetheart. And so, cameo by the brothers. And so, this is fascinating in that this little book takes you all around the history of North America. And I have a lot of travel books. You might not be able to see them because they're right over here. So I have travel books. I have good friends that have done travel books. And it's amazing where you could take a simple subject such as a type of fish and turn it into something that becomes a dissertation on overfishing, climate change, the Vikings, racism. Like, it's just deep. And this book is 200 short pages. And so if you're kind of stuck in the house and you're trying to see the rest of the world and understand the world, particularly here in North America, which is where I'm based, this is a good book to start. And according to the New York Public Library, I'll just read off the back, it's one of the 25 best books of the year. want to say it was late 90s, 1997. So it came out about 25 years ago, maybe a little bit more. Really, really good book. Highly recommend it if you're wistful for traveling. And I think it's so important to be safe, but to also expand your world. So Cod would be a good place to start. The next one, which is a funny one, is the hot sauce sampler. If you have any of my books, literally any of my books, particularly from my imprint, like the 3 that I mentioned before, including Build From Now, excuse me, or a couple of the books from before, you know that I love spice. My partner, my wife, loves spice. So our kids love spice. And we love those international flavors. In fact, when we had a relative that was traveling, in fact, a few relatives that have traveled, that they won't bring back t-shirts, they won't bring back tchotchkes and all that. They'll bring back hot sauces. This one is actually from Thoughtful Gifts. I want to make sure I got the name right, from Thoughtful Gifts. And it's a hot sauce sampler. And it has hot sauces from all around the world. There's some good stuff that's happening with Goldbelly. It's goldbelly.com, I believe. And they will actually get you cheesesteaks from Philly. I'm originally from South Jersey. So they'll get you cheesesteaks from Philly, or Alaska king crab, but actually from Alaska, from Juneau or whatever. Like it's not from the supermarket, and they will ship them to you. They're also pretty expensive. So, make sure you know that you really want a beignet from Cafe de Monde before you pull out that $50 to get 4 beignets. But shout out to them. I think they're doing interesting work. It's definitely of the higher price range. This is actually decent. I think they run for like 40 or 50 bucks. And I want to say it's 50 different hot sauces. And they're like 2 to 4 ounces, and it's great. My best friends, my good friends, other folks are always sending me stuff like that. This is just one example. You'll start to see a pattern here, which I should have warned you up front, is my family, as I said on a couple of recent media interviews, my family is very food forward. And so I believe that food is the entryway to the culture, maybe even to the soul. But at minimum, it's the entryway to culture. And so with that in mind, if you want to be transported to different places, one easy way to do that is to eat well. And I know, depending on where you're at, that might be a challenging thing to do. That's why I'm offering things that actually can be shipped to you. There's ways that you can do this that are conscious and thoughtful and safe, particularly to those that are having a challenging time right now and do not be exposed to other people. There's ways to do this. So that's why I wanted to highlight this, because there's so many of us, including me, where my passport has dust on it, and I can't remember the last time that's happened because I haven't traveled anywhere for more than a year. The last trip I went on was a family trip over to Jersey right before things got locked down. Before things got locked down, we didn't know it was going to get locked down. So I'm very thankful I got a chance to take that trip and see a lot, if not all of my family over in Jersey. But then that was it. And so this is a simple way, as far as eating, to encourage and connect with other people. Speaking of, I would also recommend the book, How to Eat Around the World. This is actually by, I always forget the author's name, Richard Sterling. I got this many, many years ago. In fact, I got it from my mother, Bernadette Johnson. Thank you. And so it's about how to eat around the world. So it's very detailed as far as with what the habits are. And it's really beautifully done. It's been on my shelf for 25 years, 30 years, probably before COD. So 30 years. And I've taken it with me. And it's just a little nice slice vignette of how different eating habits. For instance, I'll give you a quick example. And I think this is in here, but I know this from experience, where in Japan, it's actually considered rude to blow your nose on the street. But it's not considered rude to slurp while you're eating. And that's because the noodles, the udon, or whatever the case may be, it's so hot that the slurping cools the noodles as they come in, and it doesn't burn your mouth. If you're slurping here, at least here in America, then people are going to probably kick you out the restaurant or whatever, or think that you're being rude. And so it gives a good cultural context to how we eat. And it kind of reinforces the idea that I was talking about, where it's like how we eat actually reflects our culture. right? If you think of German food, where it's kind of almost a traditional meat, potatoes, but then you think about traditional German culture where it's very structured, right? That's structured. My in-laws are Indian, like from India. And so their food is very spicy, and not even as far as hot. It can be very hot, but spice as far as with the amount of flavors that are coming at you. And then you go over to India and all these colors and all this intensity of culture comes at you, right? That's reflected in the food, right? So there's that depth. I have some history in New Orleans. Like I said, I used to live in New Orleans. And so you have the Creole and the Cajun food, and it's rich and it's dense, and you can't eat it fast because it's so heavy, but it's because it's so rich. And there's only so much you can eat, but you kind of want to keep eating. You visit New Orleans, those are the New Orleaners, those are the people. They're going to walk slow, they're going to talk slow, and the conversations are going to be insanely rich, just like the food. So how to eat around the world, good primer for that. I'm reading it again right now because, again, I miss traveling, and I can't, visit my folks in Jersey for a cheesesteak at our favorite bodega. Like, I can't do that right now. I can't go to LA to see my other folks and get amazing cheesecake. Like, I can't do that right now. So this ends up being a good way to do it. So shout out to Richard Sterling for that. Excuse me. So if you're just tuning in, I'm talking about how you can travel around the world without leaving your home. And I already talked about the excellent book called Cod by Mark Kurlansky, and also the hot sauce sampler from, I always forget the name of them, Thoughtful Gifts. And shout out to them for packaging this stuff in an affordable way so we can get a taste from things all around the world. And then lastly, I'm talking about How to Eat Around the World by, I keep forgetting his name, Richard Sterling. Shout out to him. And a good way to think about culture and how we do things. And it's so important. Yep, I miss traveling too. So my passport last week teared up. Man, I'm saying thank you, right? It sucks. One of the nice things, I'm thinking about 3 or 4 different stanzas from poetry that I can cite right now, which I'm going to spare you with. So I'm probably going to butcher them. But it's that idea of, absence makes the heart grow fonder. And I recently said this on a program. So I've been doing a lot of media, like Built From Now, my new book just came out. So I've been doing a lot of podcasts and videos. You can check them out at youtube.com/BrownDamon. I will throw that in the notes right now, actually. Oh, I'll put that there. Thank you, DG, for chipping in, or for chipping in. I don't even know what I'm talking about. For your comment. I think I meant chiming in, and I was thinking chipping away. I don't know what I'm saying. But if you go to youtube.com/BrownDamon and subscribe, you'll be able to see all the media interviews that I've done. And it was a recent interview, to go back to DG. Thanks again. There was a recent interview I was on, and I was talking about how there's so many people that I knew who were saying, I will travel when I'm retired. I'll travel when the kids get older. I'll travel when the kids aren't so young. I'll travel when I'm this way and that way, blah, 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 like going back and forth. And it's just like, now we can't. At least not safely. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges right now, is that we have that level of regret. When our first son was very young, we went over to Italy with both of our mothers. My mother, shout out to Bernadette, my mother, and then my mother-in-law. And we took, a family of, I guess it'd be 5 at the time, 5 over there. And we were able to do it affordably. This is well before the pandemic, so we were able to do it safely. And we saw a good chunk of Italy. Some of those parts of Italy, they're gone. They're gone. And so the idea of waiting till tomorrow, that's not guaranteed. It's cliche, but we forget about that. The challenges over the past year, and we're going on a year now here in America as far as sheltering in place, that reminds us of that. And so DG, again, I can't talk today, DG, to go back to your point, I think that's one of the positive things, is that some of us, perhaps like you, definitely like me, we always have loved travel. We appreciate travel. as they say in the rap songs, passport stays on pivot. That was me. And doing that with my family as well. But I think it's so important to also understand that not everybody's in that same place. Not everybody's in that same place. And so this could be a wake-up call for a lot of folks where they say, oh, I could have, maybe next time, maybe when the vaccines roll out, maybe when there's herd immunity, whatever, theory you want to run with, whenever that happens, I'm going to do that trip. We've all had people, including me, who have passed away. So it's like, they're not taking that trip. We're going to think about that next time, so it's worth processing that. Oh, and there's my partner chiming in. Hi. Yes, we want to hit Greece or somewhere else. See, you got my partner on board. We're ready to go. So whenever the world is ready, we are ready. And so the discussion I'm having today is kind of getting y'all prepped for that. Not only having, on a very Stockdale paradox way, accepting that it might be a long time till we're on the road again, but also keeping that hope and saying we can do some really good stuff now and get prepped for that, right? And reading and getting insight from different things is a part of that. If you want to have some more of these conversations, you go over to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/BrownDamon. Please subscribe. I'm getting the content up. I already have, I was on TV about a week ago and they asked me how much I had. I already have 60 episodes up there. We just started in December. So you can go in. If you're enjoying conversations about how we can bring our worth and how we can build from now, I got it ready for you and it's all free. So come through, subscribe, like, comment, share it with other people and enjoy your stuff. All right. I'm so appreciating the commentary today and it's making me feel really good, because at the end of the day, I'm talking to a computer, but it's the best way that I can connect with y'all nowadays. And I can't wait to see a lot of y'all in person. Perhaps we'll do another official book tour for the anniversary of Build From Now. I'll throw that into the universe. All right. So today we're talking about how you can travel without leaving home. There's a couple other key items I think are really good that will help you on your journey. This one, I am so excited about it. It's an unofficial ALDI cookbook. Sounds weird, but let's break it down. It's actually by Jeanette, who actually serves as editor of the last 3 books I've done, including the new one, Build From Now. So shout out to Jeanette. She's a good friend of mine and has been awesome as far as with the journalism world and the writing that she's doing. She's one of the few people in my circle who has done almost as many books as I have. Build From Now is my 25th book. I think this book is I just talked to her. I think it's like her 18th or something, some insane number. And as much as I specialize in business and work-life balance and bringing your creativity and your worth into any situation, she focuses on spirits and on travel, which you can see why she's here. Now, why the ALDI cookbook? I'm glad you asked. The reason why I wanted to make sure I highlighted this is that whatever resources or stores or whatever you have by you, you can create a worldly experience. My partner and I, who just showed up on here, we used to live down the street from ALDI's, and they had everything. It's almost like a more budget-friendly Trader Joe's. I guess that's how I describe it. And so we're able to create a date night grabbing this wine and getting this coffee and getting this vegetable or this fruit or whatever, or making this meal. So there's ways that you can get very creative with what you got. You don't need to, again, I like Goldbelly, I respect them, but you don't need to go to a goldbelly.com, spend $100 for a fancy meal to get, Maryland crab cakes. There's actually ways to do that. And ALDI, as y'all probably know, is a very affordable store. What actually I did not know about ALDI's, which wasn't until, oh my gosh, probably around the time that I lived by an ALDI's a few years ago, is that they're almost 100% organic. And so back in the day when ALDI's first got here, 15 years ago, back when I barely heard about them, then they were just like, the equivalent of a dollar store, where you go to a dollar store and you're like, I'm going to buy these raisins, but They look like they've been here since my first son was born. So maybe I won't buy these raisins, but they are $1. That was the vibe of Aldi's. At least Aldi's out on the East Coast when I had been there many, many years ago. And then about 6, 7 years ago, I think they transformed. And some of y'all in the audience might know the history. I don't know the business history of them, but at a certain point, I believe they're a German company. At a certain point, they just shifted and they're like, okay, they shut down all the stores, they rebuilt it back up. Affordable prices, almost 100% organic. I talked to Jeanette as she was working on this book. The book is actually out in a few days. So it'll be out on February 23rd. So I think books usually come out on Tuesday. So it'll be out next Tuesday. And while she was researching the book, she had learned that they were going to be 100% organic. I want to say 2025. So within a few years. So I bring all this up and highlight this because number one, Aldi's is a cool place to shop because it is affordable. Got 2 little kids, so we are being thoughtful as far as how much we spend, especially our kids eat a ridiculous amount of food. So Aldi was very thoughtful in that way. So number one. Number two, they're going towards the organic part where I think they're 98% organic. Again, I used to shop there regularly when they were in our neighborhood and it worked out really well and the food was really good, right? So the health part of it too. But number three, her book is an excellent example, and I've read some of the early stuff of it. Her book is an excellent example of you being able to travel without leaving the house. And it doesn't have to be, again, you ordering gourmet food. It doesn't have to be you having to be a top-notch chef or baker or whatever. It doesn't have to be like that. It can actually just be you going to a local Aldi's or whatever that equivalent is, using a cookbook like Jeanette's cookbook, and then just getting down in the kitchen. And both my partner and I cook a lot. I'm the main cook, so I'm usually on the stove. I'm usually on the stove. She's a baker, so she's usually in the oven. Between the two of us, we're making all kind of creative meals. And being able to take our young family on these trips, proverbially, based on the food that we eat. You can do that. You can do that at any budget. And my finances have been up, they've been down, etc. And I was always able to create this worldly experience. Aldi's is an affordable place. So if you're like, oh my God, Damon, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, it doesn't have to be that deep. Get a good cookbook like Jeanette's one, go to Aldi's. Yeah, the book's coming out again, the 23rd, whatever day that is, next week. Grab it now and then have it ready. And then go to Aldi's or whomever, wherever. Because I think some of the items in there you can get elsewhere. Go to your local supermarket. Don't break the budget. Don't break your bank. It's not worth that. And then have your family or have yourself or your spouse, whatever, go on these trips. It's possible to do that without leaving the house. There's no reason to put yourself in danger. That's silly. In fact, a lot of countries won't even let us in. So it's like, don't even worry about it. Take care of yourself at home and we can get through this together, right? All right. I'm off my soapbox on that. Just check out the Aldi Cookbook by Jeanette Hurt. Yeah. And if you like my work in Build From Now, she's the editor for that. So if you're looking for a good editor, or if you like the quality of my writing, she's been always good as far as supporting my work. So I appreciate you, Jeanette. All right. My last recommendation is Away and Afar. Excuse me, Away and Aware. I always screw the title. I love the book, but I screw the title. Away and Aware. It's actually by Sara, Clemence. She's the co-founder of this cool platform called Join the Expedition. And in fact, I wasn't even thinking ahead of time. I will give a link to the expedition right now. So if you bear with me for a second. Yeah, so let me get that going. But Sara and I actually know each other from many years ago, where she was a former editor of mine at Condé Nast Portfolio, which I'm dating myself because that magazine hasn't been around for many, many years, to some of her work at some of the other publications. And what she did, and what she talks about in the book, is that she took her family, young family, 2 and 4, they were very young, on a world tour. And they were on tour for like months. And it was her husband, and her very young family. And she breaks down her experiences with that And this book came out like 2 years ago, so I've gotten to know her a little bit more, and there's all kinds of interesting experiences going on now that I think is great as far as her making input and not making input, her making a connection to people like myself. Our kids are 7 and 4, and they're about to have some birthdays. When we did this trip to Italy, my eldest son wasn't quite 2. And there were so many people that I was talking to that were saying that, no, you shouldn't take him on this trip because he's not going to remember that. It's not going to matter. He's not going to remember this trip. And then we end up coming back, and our kid is asking for the white cheese, which is Parmesan Reggiano. He's asking for that. He doesn't want to eat Kraft anymore. Our kid is asking for gelato. He was barely 2. He wasn't even 2 yet. And so what I love about the book is talking about how you can be a savvy traveler, which she's really good at. As she mentions in the book, she's been traveling her whole life, way more than me. I think she started internationally traveling when she was very young. But more importantly, travel can fit into your life, and you can configure your life so that you can take who you care about along with you on the journey, particularly your kids or even your older adults. And I think about my late grandmother and the traveling that I was able to do with my mom and other relatives, even though she was already in her 60s, 70s, and later on 80s. But we were able to show her parts of the world that she had never seen before, even though she had been around for a long time. And so I think we sometimes underestimate how much we can influence people, how much we can help people just by traveling. Now, we can't do that right now, which is why I think it's really important to put that into context and to say, oh, okay, we can't just we can't just do like whatever we want to do right now. And we need to be thoughtful about, you need to be thoughtful about how we do these things. But I think it's also important for us to be mindful when it comes to the influence that we have before the travel starts, right? So there's ways of whether we have little kids, which my partner and I do, or we have older adults. There's ways that you can prep them for having a really cool experience on the road before we actually get on the road. I think it's really important to think about how we're influencing things and think about how we influence other people before we actually have to travel. And this book actually gets into that. So forgive me for a second. I'm going to go ahead and try to make sure that I can find the network that I'm a part of, that she's co-founder of. So bear with me one second. But I think it's really important to be part of that process and to make it clear that even though we're at home, there are ways for us to still stay connected, There we go. Man, that took forever. Thank you for your patience. I want to make sure I gave Sara her propers, and oh man, it took forever. So I apologize for that. But it's at theexpedition.com. I'm actually a member on there, and it's a little social network that allows people to connect who have kids and also, or who are guardians, or whatever the case may be, and who want to travel. And I've been a part of them for about a year and a half, and they're always giving good information. I highly recommend that you get involved with them. I was trying to find the link to get the official invite, but I couldn't find it. So that's okay. So I think it's so important to do that. All right, so bringing it back. So if you want to travel without having to leave home, here are the things you can do. Check out the book Cod by Mark Kurlansky. If you want to travel on a book, man, I've been reading this book probably every year for 25 years. I forgot what I said at the top of the program, but I've had this book for a while. And it's dog-eared. If you're a writer, it's a really good inspirational book as far as how to structure your writing. There's also the hot sauce sampler, which, as my partner just came through, both her and I are really into spice, into heat, as well as spice as far as flavor. And my good friends have sent me all kinds of gift boxes. This one happens to be from Traveling Yours. See, my phone just died. I forgot the name of it, but you can click on the link and learn more about it. And this one happens to be 40 or 50 little tiny hot sauces. And man, there's so much cool traveling I've done just by eating, right? Which again is the theme for this. There's How to Eat Around the World. Got this book like 30 years ago. Again, shout out to my mother for getting me this book. And it tells you how people eat all around the world. And if you got some wanderlust, it's a good place to start. There is the official ALDI cookbook. Again, you don't need to, and shout out to Jeanette, the author. Excuse me, you don't need to go to a fancy grocery store, nor do you need to outsource your food and go to a fancy website and pay hundreds of dollars to get food coming to you. You can go to your local store, whatever your situation may be. You can go to your local store and get something like the ALDI cookbook, which is coming out in a week. Congrats, Jeanette. And get that insight that you need to build whatever food you're trying to build at home. Even if you're not that great of a cook, you can still find these simple ways of doing it. Cookbooks like the unofficial ALDI cookbook will help you on your journey with that. And lastly, Away and Aware by Sara, Clemence. Really good book that talks about the value of, number one, traveling. Number two, it has travel tips in there. So if you're kind of green to traveling or new to it, you can do that. And lastly, she talks about traveling with her two little kids, really little kids. Like, that's a whole different level. We traveled with one tiny little kid, and that was complex. But she's traveling with two of her little kids, I think both under 4. And man, what an adventure. And she talks about that. And if you want to get more insight on Sara and on all that good stuff, you can go to the expedition. It's actually her social network. Go there and say hi to me, because I'm on there as well. But it talks about parenting and being a traveler, and how you can take your kids on the road and help them understand that. DJ, oh, yep, exactly. So Amazon has a ton of that. Good. And not everybody likes spice. See, there's two different types of spice. There's the spice as far as flavor, and the spice as far as heat. I happen to like both. The item I suggested has both, but as EG said, there's a bunch of different items on there that can help you get insight. And so, yeah, I hope this helps your wanderlust. Again, it's Mardi Gras week. I miss my people down in New Orleans, and yeah, and shout out to them. I hope that they're safe and they're doing their social distancing, and I hope that the Hundy Gras, I think they were calling it, because the houses were being decorated like Mardi Gras floats. I hope the Hundy Gras was fun and safe for y'all last night, and I can't wait to get down there and have some bourbon milk punch with everybody. So blessings to them, especially my friends down there who I miss terribly. But remember, there's a ton of ways you can travel. Food happens to be my way of doing it. And that's why I gave you these 5 hopefully good examples for you. And shout out to all the authors, Mark Kurlansky, Richard Sterling for the book on how to eat around the world. Shout out to Jeanette, my good friend, and also the editor of my new book, Build From Now. But shout out to her with her new book called the Unofficial ALDI Cookbook, which comes out on the 23rd, I believe. So it's coming out next week. Get it while it's hot, and I'm sure it'll be shipped to your door probably before the launch date. And lastly, shout out to Sara, Clemence with her book, Away and Aware, which is really good and instructive as far as people like me who are seasoned or even starting travelers, but have little kids and trying to groom them as far as to be world travelers and look at things from a global perspective. I think that's enough for now. Anyway, remember that you can always bring your worth and that you can always build from now. And if you're enjoying this, whatever platform you're on, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Lets me know that you're listening. Thanks. Much love to y'all.